The bar was bursting with life, a sea of colorful lights flashing on the walls, the sound of clinking glasses and laughter slicing through the warm São Paulo air. The electronic music pulsed, vibrant, dragging everyone into a wave of energy that seemed endless. I was in the middle of it all, but first subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the outcome. My dark green dress hugging my body, the cold drink in my hand chilling my skin. 7 years. 7 years of sleepless nights, of crises I handled alone, of newbies I guided until they became someone. It all led me to this night, this party, this moment I knew would change everything. My boss, Eduardo, had been dropping hints for months, tossing out lines like, "You're the heart of this team, Mariana." And I believed him. I adjusted my dress, feeling the fabric slip through my fingers, and looked around. Colleagues laughing loudly, toasts clinking, the air thick with victory. I could hear my internal narration clear as the music. This is it. Senior manager. My name on the plaque, my future starting now. The noise swelled, the lights hit my eyes, and I felt ready, almost floating. After so much sweat, so many extra hours, so many times I held it all together, the reward was coming. Eduardo would take the stage, I knew it, and he'd say my name. I imagined the applause, the weight of recognition, the smile I'd hold back to not seem too smug. I adjusted my hair, took a sip of my drink, the sweetness mixing with the adrenaline. The crowd moved around me, but I was calm, confident, like someone who already sees the trophy before the finish line. The microphone crackled on, a screech cutting through the music, and I took a deep breath, my heart speeding up just a little. This was it. My time. My victory. But then his voice boomed, and the floor seemed to shake beneath me. Sometimes what you think is yours was never so far out of your reach. I was never one to show off, but 7 years aren't 7 days. They were whole nights spent reviewing reports while the office emptied out, the silence broken only by the hum of the air conditioner and my keyboard. I handled crises no one else would touch. Angry clients, impossible deadlines, mistakes that weren't mine to fix. I took scared newbies, the kind who could barely send a professional email, and turned them into people who hold the team up today. All of it with a smile on my face and a coffee in hand, because that's how I worked. Eduardo, my boss, knew it. He saw me stay late, heard me explain strategies in meetings he called himself. For months, he'd been dropping those scattered lines, almost like breadcrumbs I carefully gathered. "Mariana, you're the backbone here. Your moment's coming, trust me." I trusted him. I adjusted my dark green dress that night in the bar, feeling the fabric against my skin, and thought about the weight of those words. I looked at my colleagues, some laughing loudly, others already swaying from their third drink, and saw myself differently. Not just part of it, but above it. Senior manager wasn't just a title. It was recognition of who I'd become. The party spun around me, and I let myself imagine. My new desk, the decisions I'd make, the respect that would finally come without me having to prove anything to anyone. Eduardo had to see that, right? He knew me. 7 years of him watching me grow, watching me hold it together. So as I fixed my hair and sipped my drink, I knew that speech he was about to give would be the moment. My moment. The camera in my head was already focused on the future. Me standing up, thanking everyone, humble but proud. All he had to do was say my name. That's it. I was ready to step up, to be more. And then he started talking. The bar still buzzed, but the microphone cut through everything like a knife. Eduardo stepped onto the small makeshift stage, glass in hand, a wide smile of someone who knows all eyes are on him. I straightened up, feeling the weight of my dark green dress, my heart beating a little faster. He began his speech, his words carrying that confident, almost theatrical tone of his. "Today we celebrate success, but we also recognize someone exceptional. Someone who's shown leadership, innovation, a shine you can't ignore." I felt a warmth rising in my chest, the smile already forming, ready to burst when he said my name. 7 years, all those nights, it all led to this. The room went quiet, all eyes on him, and I could already hear the applause. Then he said, "That's why our new senior manager is Clara." The name hit like thunder. Clara. Not Mariana. Clara, 26, 4 months at the company, her always perfect blonde hair bouncing as she climbed the stage with a fake little squeal of surprise. My smile froze, hard like melted wax that suddenly sets. My hands gripped the glass, the cold against my fingers as the room erupted in applause. I clapped too, slowly, mechanically, the sound muffled in my head. Eduardo barely looked at me, just threw a "Mariana, "You're essential to us," into the middle of his speech, like tossing a bone to a quiet dog. Clara beamed, hugged him, and I stood there, a statue in the middle of the party, the dark green dress I'd adjusted so carefully now feeling like a burden. Colleagues shot me quick glances, some confused, some awkward, but no one said anything. The crowd's noise returned, but to me it was just a hum. 7 years and this was it? Clara's, I stayed. The taste of my drink turned bitter in my mouth, and I knew right then that something had broken. The applause for Clara was still echoing when Eduardo turned to me. The microphone lowered, but his voice loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Mariana, you should take inspiration from Clara, you know? Look at what she's done in so little time." His tone was light, almost playful, but each word cut like glass. Take inspiration from Clara? 4 months against 7 years, and I was the one who needed to learn? I forced a smile, the kind that hurts your soul, and raised my glass in a toast no one asked for. "Of course, Eduardo," I said, my voice steady, but inside it was a storm. The bar spun, the colorful lights now seeming to mock me, and the dark green dress I'd chosen with such pride weighed on me like armor that no longer protected me. The colleagues around me hesitated. Some exchanged awkward glances, others pretended not to hear, turning to their drinks as if nothing had happened. I swallowed the rest of my drink, the taste burning my throat while the narration in my head screamed what I couldn't say. 7 years of loyalty, of sleepless nights, of carrying this team on my back, and now I was the punchline? Clara was still smiling on stage, oblivious, thanking everyone with exaggerated gestures, and Eduardo clapped, pleased with himself. My chest tightened, a mix of anger and humiliation I fought to hide. I could have shouted, could have smashed the glass on the floor and stormed out, but no. I kept my composure, the smile plastered on, my eyes fixed on some random point so I wouldn't have to face anyone. On the outside I was the same old Mariana. Calm, professional, reliable. Inside I was a volcano. Every laugh around me, every toast that wasn't for me threw more fuel on the fire. I knew it couldn't stay like this. It wouldn't. Something had to change, and it wasn't me who'd been to fix it. The night wasn't over, but for me it was the end of something. The party dragged on late, but I didn't stay to see the end. I left the bar with the noise still buzzing in my ears, the humid São Paulo air hitting my face as I walked down the dark street. The dark green dress swayed in the breeze, but I barely felt it. My mind was elsewhere. 7 years, Eduardo's words, Clara's smile. It all swirled like a movie I didn't want to watch anymore. I got home, kicked my shoes into a corner, and opened my laptop, the screen's light cutting through the dark room. No more doubts, no more waiting. I opened my email, my fingers already knowing what to do before I'd fully thought it through. "Dear all, I hereby inform you of my immediate resignation. Thank you for the years of learning. Sincerely, Mariana." I wrote it quickly, no flourishes, no overt anger, but each word carried a weight only I could feel. The narration in my head took shape. I'd given everything to that company, and what I got was public humiliation. I wouldn't be anyone's backbone anymore, not there. I closed my eyes for a second, picturing Eduardo's face, the chaos that would follow, then returned to the email. The cursor blinked over the send button and I hesitated, not out of fear but to savor the moment. I clicked. The sound of the send echoed in the silence, and a strange relief washed over me, like taking off a tight shoe after hours. It wasn't just anger, it was clarity. I didn't need them. I never did. As the rain began to tap against the window, I caught myself smiling. A small, real smile. Monday I'd go back to the office, but not as the old Mariana. They thought I was essential. They'd find out just how much. Because I already had another plan, another door, and this time I was the one deciding where to go. The game had turned and I was ready to play it my way. Monday arrived with a gray sky over São Paulo, but I walked into the office like the sun was shining just for me. The dark green dress stayed in the closet. Today was a simple white blouse, black pants, no flashiness, just calm. The chatter stopped as I passed by, colleagues glancing at me out of the corner of their eyes. Some whispering, others looking away. They knew. The email had gone to HR on Saturday night, and the news had spread like wildfire. Eduardo saw me from his office doorway, his face pale, his glasses crooked like he hadn't slept. "Mariana, come here for a minute," he said, his voice trying to sound firm but faltering. I walked in, sat in his chair without rushing, hands crossed, eyes steady. He closed the door, slumped into the chair across the desk and asked, "Why are you doing this? What happened?" I let the silence stretch just for a second before answering. What happened is I accepted a better offer, Eduardo. Pedro Albuquerque asked me to lead the operations department at his startup. The name dropped like a bomb. Pedro, the ex-CFO Eduardo had fired 2 years ago, the guy he swore would never bounce back. Shock plastered Eduardo's face. His mouth opened, his eyes blinked fast, and he stammered. But, Mariana, we can talk, adjust your salary, give you what you deserve. I smiled, a cold smile, and shook my head. You had 7 years to give me what I deserve. I'm not your plan B anymore. I stood up, adjusted my blouse, and walked to the door. He called my name, desperate, but I didn't look back. I left his office with the same steady stride I'd entered with, the sound of my shoes echoing down the hallway. The company he thought he controlled would feel my absence, but I was already looking ahead. The days that followed were like watching two worlds spinning in opposite directions. At Eduardo's company, chaos took over quickly. Clara, the new senior manager, stumbled over every decision. Late reports, complaining clients, meetings that turned into shouting matches. I heard about it through messages from colleagues who still wrote to me, almost begging for updates on how I was doing. The big clients, the ones I'd held on to with overtime and patience, started jumping ship one after another. The leadership plunged into crisis, fingers pointed in every direction, and Eduardo ran from room to room, hair disheveled, voice hoarse from trying to put out fires. Meanwhile, I woke up early, took the elevator at Albuquerque and Asociados, and stepped into an office that seemed to breathe confidence. Pedro handed me the keys to the operations department, and I started shaping everything my way, clear processes and aligned team goals that made sense. Within weeks, we had new clients, some even from the old company, who sought me out because they knew who I really was. I walked the halls with my head held high, the weight of the dark green dress replaced by a lightness I hadn't felt in years. Mornings in Sao Paulo tasted different now. The coffee warmer, the traffic less heavy. On the other side, Eduardo's empire crumbled in silence, piece by piece, while I built mine. It wasn't just revenge. It was justice, the kind that comes quietly but cuts deep. I saw it in the messages that came in the rumors that spread. Clara can't handle it. Eduardo's lost without you. Me. I thrived. Every meeting I led, every idea that turned into results, showed me what I already knew but had forgotten. I was good, damn good, and I didn't need anyone to tell me that to believe it. The contrast was stark. One side their failure, the other my victory. And I wasn't going to stop growing. Never again. The phone call came on a rainy afternoon, Eduardo's number flashing on the screen like a ghost I didn't expect to see again. He asked for a meeting, his voice low, almost pleading, saying he needed to see me. I agreed, not out of pity but curiosity. The cafe in downtown Sao Paulo was small, the smell of espresso mingling with the sound of rain outside. I walked in, my white blouse pristine, hair loose, and there he was, unshaven, sunken eyes, the man who'd once been my boss now looking like a stranger. He stood, tried to smile but gave up fast. Mariana, I messed up, he began, hands restless on the table. You were the heart of it all and I didn't see it. Come back to us. Senior manager, double the salary, whatever you want. It was everything I'd wanted to hear months ago, but now it sounded hollow, too late. I stared at him, letting his words hang, then smiled. A calm, sharp smile. Do you remember what you told me that night, Eduardo? That I should take inspiration from Clara. He looked down, hands stilling, and I went on. Well, I did. I took inspiration from myself, from what I know how to do, from what you never valued. And now I have more than you can offer. Silence fell heavy, the rain's noise filling the space between us. He tried to speak, stammered something about the company sinking, but I stood, adjusted my bag on my shoulder, and said, You should take inspiration, Eduardo. Maybe you'll learn something. I walked out without looking back, my steps firm against the wet floor. His defeated look stuck in my mind. Not anger but surrender. The rain hit my face but I didn't feel cold. I'd won, not just against him but against all the doubts he'd planted in me. And that was just the beginning. The elevator rose slowly, the glass showing Sao Paulo unfolding below. Buildings, lights, the chaos I now saw from above. My new office at Albuquerque and Asociados had a huge window, a desk I'd arranged my way, and a silence that didn't weigh on me. I sat down, the sound of the keyboard filling the air as I finished a report, but my mind was beyond that. Eduardo had been fired last week. I heard it through the grapevine, a curt message from an ex-colleague. He's out. The company's a mess. I didn't feel pity nor satisfaction, just an emptiness that soon turned to relief. 7 years thrown away by him but reclaimed by me in months. The narration in my mind started calm, like I could finally breathe. I thought I needed them, that my worth came from what they gave me. But no. My worth was always here, quiet, waiting for me to see it. I stood, walked to the window, my reflection in the glass showing a different woman. Not the Mariana in the dark green dress, desperate for approval, but someone free, in control. At that bar months ago I'd been humiliated, underestimated, but now I was indispensable where it mattered. The startup was growing, my team listened to me, clients trusted me. I'd learned the hardest lesson. No one will give you what you deserve unless you demand it yourself. Eduardo thought I'd stay, that I was just a pillar to prop up his mistakes, but underestimating my fire was what burned him. The elevator beeped behind me, someone stepping in, but I didn't turn. I was looking ahead at the future I'd built. The city outside pulsed, and I pulsed with it, confident, rising. It wasn't just a victory. It was a beginning. And as the sun broke through the clouds, I knew I'd never let myself be dimmed again. That was my lesson, my freedom, my story, and it was just starting. If this story moved you, please leave a like to support the content, subscribe to the channel to follow the next stories, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what your moment of transformation was.